Here we go, TM4. E4, it's time for E5. The King's Gambit. I've been trying to learn the King's Gambit declined here, so with bishop c5, let's see how it goes. Taking. Okay, he just goes there. So I think, yeah, he couldn't really take that pawn. There is a check. I can grab here. Yeah, so that's still the case that he can't take that pawn, except when I play my knight out, he can take the pawn then, but his pawn will be a bit loose. Anyway, I need to have the knight out of the way so that I can castle in response to knight e5 or knight g5. Okay, and he just keeps developing. That's pretty logical. Let's develop too. And defend my pawn while he defends his. So what's this? I've got an open d file and he has an open f file. If there's pressure on the f file, I can always bring my bishop back. But as it stands now, this bishop is doing a good job keeping him from castling. So he's going to trade it off. That's all very logical. Why don't I keep that piece? And I'll threaten these pieces over here on the queen side. So he goes back. Maybe queen up. I was thinking, it might be nice to get my knight here, but I didn't want to give away that d pawn for nothing. Now that I've chased his knight away, though, the queen can come out to d6. Help defend that pawn and allow for knight 2. Allow for knight to d4. And maybe bishop e6 too, to challenge this bishop here. I used to play the King's Gambit accepted, where you just take the pawn and then play whatever. But there's so many variations to keep track of. I just kind of got tired of it. So I've been trying to play the declined here. Although taking the pawn is good for black, so not like it wins a pawn or anything, but it's good. So I can take his knight first, because that comes a check. This will force some simplifications, because when I take the knight with my knight, I'll be defending my bishop and attacking his bishop. That's why I took this knight off first, is because his bishop will now be loose when I take the knight. Here. So we just took my knight. So that loses a piece, right? Yeah, I don't think bishop takes f7 is anything to be afraid of. It is a problem if I take the bishop, but I can just step back. Okay, this is a he wants a take back. Okay, let's try again. He's just losing anyway. Um, just shut the shut down the file. Yeah, he's got to try something like that. I'm going to get rid of this bishop. What can I try here? Rook takes bishop. I can play rook takes bishop. Or can I? Ah, but he just retreated. Okay, that's fine. Now my rooks are connected. That was what I was trying to do there. If I go here, I guess I need the help of the queen here, huh? Ah, he's threatening mate, though. Okay. So I have to play here. I don't know, there may have been some tactics there. Maybe we should check that out in the postmortem. See if he had anything there. So I want to play bishop to f7 to get rid of that bishop. So I'm bringing my queen here. Also defends here against rook takes. I can take with the rook. He's got all his pieces piled up there, so if there was anything, I mean, another idea for this bishop would be to come around to to g8 to h7, but just to f7 I think is sufficient. Bishop takes. I can even take with the queen. Queen takes, rook takes. I'm still just a piece up. And the bishop, the light squared bishop, since he moved his bishop away, the light squared bishop is controlling the h3 square, so it can't easily get to h3 or h4. This f4 square is controlled by the pawn. You do have to watch out for those maneuvers onto the h file. He could get to the g file here, but I don't think it's fast enough to help. Okay, so he is going to let me trade. I will go for that. That was to allow rook h3, I assume. And now he has to decide, does he want to take back with the pawn? That would be consistent with his previous strategy, or the rook. Okay, now let's chase the queen away. There's a pin here, so I have to be careful about just rook takes pawn. So I drop the bishop back to e7. Rook takes, queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes. Yeah, he can take everything off, but I'll be left with the queen versus a rook. So bishop to e7 there is an idea. And he can't take the pawn because of the pin this way. If he takes the pawn, I'll take his queen. So let's get there quickest. Let's think about this. I drop back. He pushes to attack my queen. I take his rook to attack his queen. He takes my queen. I take his queen. He takes my rook. And I have rook and bishop versus a rook. Or he pushes the pawn. He pushes the pawn. I take his rook. He takes back with the pawn. I take, oh, I just moved my queen. Or he takes back with the queen. I take the queen. Yeah, that seems like a sufficient answer. I couldn't have taken the pawn because the rook here is under-defended. But dropping the bishop back to defend the rook. It's still under-defended in a way, but he has to give up a queen to win rook and bishop, so that will still leave me materially up. So it just pushes. Let's take. And looks like I'll have to clear out. Let's go over here. Hit his queen. The bishop can come out with check. The rook can come over to defend. And his king has become exposed here by all of the pawn pushes. The h-pawn is hanging now too. So he could play queen g3 or queen h3. Avoid the trade and defend the pawns and then try to push these guys forward. I would still have the check, and where does the king go? The bishop covering this diagonal and the queen covering this diagonal. The king has to run to h2. Then I would have queen takes c2 check. And well, let's see, if he'd put the queen here, then he would be able to block with the rook. Ah, but my bishop would be covering the f2 square. So yeah, that was just not working there for him. So let's go ahead and grab another pawn. And drop back. And we can defend here. Okay, so what's the best way to... I guess I need to get my king into the game too. Up to the f6 square. And okay, he's going to bring his rook in somehow. Guess he's pushing that b pawn forward. Now, I thought the idea of walking his king in was a little more dangerous, but he covered all the squares. So he can break that way. That's true. So now he can get his king over to this square here, which would be a bit annoying. King on the square. A king on the c5 square attacking this pawn would be a bit annoying. These pawns are weak over here. If he pushes the pawn forward, though, he can't. He can no longer get to that square. So I'm going to just bring my king up here. I could have played the check and picked up the pawn, huh? Attack here. Get a passed h pawn. So he defends. Let's activate the rook. Yeah, I was expecting that one eventually. Still trying to keep his king from entering my camp. So the pawn controls here and the bishop controls there. And can attack this pawn here. And then round up this pawn. There we go. Now the bishop is defending here, so he has no way of getting any counterplay. And he resigned. Okay, so that was a nice game. I thought maybe I would just abandon it after he lost a piece, but he made an interesting fight of it. So I guess we will check that out in the postmortem, and I will see you guys later. Bye.